Point number one is when we exert boundaries in the present, people don't have to wonder whether or not we're on board in the future. First of all, boundaries is something that is a concept that we all need to develop, right? And there is a particular art to boundaries, right? To creating them. And boundaries, according to Dr. Henry Cloud, says that we know where we end and where someone else begins, right? And so this is not just physically, right? Because when God created the whole world, he created boundaries where the water is only going so far. The sky is only going so far, right? The grass is only going so far. He created those boundaries and separated the firmaments, so to speak, right? And so when we create boundaries, what happens is there's an art to it because no two people have the exact same rules, so to speak, and boundaries that's based upon their worldview, their standards and principles and values, right? The things that they value that's top on the list is what we use to help us to create our boundaries, right? And so when it comes to boundaries, a lot of times it's hard for us to set those boundaries. And the reason being is because we are afraid of that relationship ending. We are afraid of the backlash. We are afraid that we are going to be alone, right? And especially when it comes to women, if I set up boundaries for this relationship, this man is going to leave me. Well, guess what? He might go on, especially if he's a narcissist, he's going to go ahead and leave you anyway, right? And if people leave, then that means that what God released them, that relationship wasn't meant to be in the first place, right? If setting up boundaries for how far you're going to go in this relationship or any relationship, romantic and otherwise, right? It could be a professional relationship. If setting up boundaries causes a person to leave, then they needed to have been gone a long time ago, right? And so in Matthew 5:37, it says, all you need to say is simply yes or no. This is the NIV version. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one, right? So that means that somebody asks us if we want to do something, we know deep down inside of our heart, we don't want to do it. And instead of saying yes or no, we start, well, or we'll say yeah, and then we become resentful, right? And Dr. Brene Brown says that inside of resentment lies envy. So that means then we're envious of that other person. Well, it must be nice that he gets to sit back, to lay back and not have any kids to watch for the day. But you said yes, you volunteered, right? Well, it must be nice that he can just sit there and not clean up the house. But you didn't set the boundary on how far it was that you were going to go. And so then what happens in that particular respect is that it's on us. But we're envious, right? Because that resentment, envy is part of resentment. We're envious because of the fact that that person is going on and doing what they wanted to do, but we didn't answer what? No, like we really wanted to. And this says what? Anything beyond this is from the evil one. So that means that the Satan is involved. Anytime we're not saying yes or no after really thinking about it, contemplating everything involved in whatever it is somebody asks us, right? We're fooling around with Satan, okay? Point number one, because this is going to be quick. When we exert boundaries in the present, people don't have to wonder whether or not we're on board in the future, right? If we say no, that we don't go out during the week because we have work, they'll know that for the future. They won't keep asking us. They might have asked us 3 or 4 times, and after that, they're not asking anymore, right? If we say no, that we cannot, as much as we love their children, we cannot be involved in the caregiving process. They know in the future. I don't need to call Barbara because I know what she's gonna say. She's gonna say no already, right? If we say that we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't have premarital sex, there's no point in asking us if we've said it umpteen times. They know whatever is going on in the present, that's going to be the same answer for the future, right? That's a pretty good indicator. Yes, people change. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be status quo for the future, right? If we say we don't eat certain foods because we have autoimmune diseases or we're trying to live a healthier lifestyle, right? They don't have to have question. They don't have to say, you want to go over to this burger place and all that kind of thing. They don't even have to ask us that because they already know that person gonna say no anyway, right? Kathy don't eat burgers. Kathy don't eat fries, right? Kathy don't like kale. Whatever it is, they already know, right? Kathy doesn't like quinoa. So then they're not gonna ask, right? The predictor for the future would be what? The present, right? And we keep seeing the fruit, but we keep wanting to put these rose-colored glasses on and pretend like people are telling us something different than what we see, right? Next thing, point number 2, boundaries are the glue that holds difficult relationships together. Letting things slide is the kryptonite that makes them fall apart. We know God can work a miracle when it comes to anything as far as changing people, right? At the same time, he's not going to go over free will. He's not going to control anybody, right? And so we get ourselves into these situations in our relationships where things have gone so far because we didn't set up boundaries. And this is for any relationship, whether it's family members, whether it's co-workers, right? And on a professional level, whether it's in ministry, whether it's in church, whether it's romantic, any type of relationship we get into, we can let things go so far that there's at a point that there's no return. Even if you wanted to try to reconcile and restore the relationship, you can get so far from not setting boundaries that there is a point of no return because so much damage has been done, right? Boundaries in place help salvage the relationship, help keep both parties within a reasonable rather amount of emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual, professional, cultural, social, intellectual, and financial space rather. The last point, point number 3, and I told you this was going to be a quick message. Quick but important, okay, for your heart. When I know who I am, I can allow you to be you. When I don't know who I am, I can try to make you be whoever I want you to be, right? I wanted to be a singer, so all of a sudden I've invested so much time in trying to get you to be one, right? To get you to be a performing artist. I want you to be a ballet dancer, football player, baseball player, soccer player, and travel the world. And that's not in your heart, right? You want to be a painter, right? Because I got all of these aspirations that I didn't follow through with for my own self. Then I taken that and then projected that onto you, right? So that you can become fused to me. When we don't know who we are, we keep wanting to make somebody else like us, right? Because we don't understand. That's the other thing too, is that we don't understand creation. We don't understand that God is a creative God, and having each and every person to stamp out like we're an assembly line on a machine and stamp us out like that. That's pretty boring. That's pretty boring for God, right? He uniquely created and designed us. No two people have the same fingerprints, and not even twins, right? And so when we don't allow people to be individuals to make their own choices, and we say that we know, we understand, we don't really understand because we would do differently, right? The fruit rather would show differently. The scripture says you would know them by their fruit. That's what Jesus said, right? And so the fruit would show differently if we know differently. And the scriptures say you should know the truth, and the truth will set you free, right? So if you're still continuing to do the same thing, you don't know the truth, right? It's just information you have. It's just data you're collecting, and you've not done anything with it, right? And so what happens is that you would not keep trying to have somebody else wear their hair like you, use the same shampoo, buy the same foods, right? Live in the same neighborhood, buy the same type of cars, go on the same type of camping trips, put their kids in the same type of activities. You would be able to understand within yourself, they have to be them, just like I need to be me, right? It's a must in order to have a sense of agency and a sense of autonomy. Remember, you are enough. Reclaim your power, soul, and identity today. And then I want to challenge you to reclaim the power, soul, and identity of your calling. Grab them keys to the kingdom and get your inheritance. Again, I'm Katina Horton, the Love and Freedom Toxic Relationship Recovery Coach. Share this quick message. I love you. Be blessed.
There was a son, he was devoured by earth. There was a God, they call him the Father. And there was a means to make a valley with grace out of this hole that I've dug for me. He made a valley of grace where things would change the love that refines. There's no sense in trying to do it on my own. He gave more than I could have known. He turned those valleys into places to learn, instead of burn and perish away. And nights never so cold without His grace. How could I say that I've seen the world from His great love? How could I know what He could love? How would I've seen what He had in store for me if I didn't give up and let Him be my valley of grace, where things would change and maybe they'd take up the cross high again. The valley of grace never was the same after He had died. The love that refines. So much I wish I could give back, but I'm not intact to be sharing all of that. You took the price to give me that life, and now it's never gonna fade away. When I see I need more of Him, He whispers the sweetest of mercies upon my ears, and I won't go back the way it was again, again, again. And now a valley of grace where things would change. I've seen the lights of valley of grace where things have changed. Oh, I've seen so much for me.